Clocking in for work. It seems so simple, right? A quick punch, a swipe, maybe a tap on an app. But behind that simple action, there's this massive, incredibly complex challenge that pretty much every business has to deal with. So today, we're going to pull back the curtain and look at the hidden logic of how modern industries manage their most valuable and, let's be honest, most complicated resource, people's time.
So let me ask you something. What on earth could a construction foreman standing out on a muddy, noisy job site have in common with a hospital administrator walking through those quiet, sterile hallways? I mean, they seem like they're from two different planets, right? But believe it or not, they share this deep, fundamental struggle every single day.
And here it is, they're both wrestling with the exact same universal puzzle: how to manage people, time, and money. It all comes down to this: how do you get the right person, in the right place, at the right time, and make sure you're paying them correctly for it? It's a challenge that cuts across basically every industry you can think of.
Okay, so let's dive into this, and we'll start with the most basic piece of the puzzle: just tracking time. I know, it sounds easy, but the reality is, it's anything but.
The first big hurdle is just the environment itself. I mean, a classic punch clock bolts into a wall just doesn't work when your wall is constantly moving. Think about construction crews. They're spread out across a bunch of different temporary job sites. And in healthcare, you've got staff who are always on the move, going between different facilities or even into patients' homes. So how do you solve for that? Well, one of the key pieces of tech is something called geofencing. It's actually pretty cool. It basically creates an invisible virtual boundary around a specific location, like that construction site or a patient's house. An employee's mobile app knows if they're inside that boundary, and it only lets them clock in when they are physically where they're supposed to be. Simple, but super effective.
The modern solution here isn't just one single thing. It's more like a toolkit. You've got biometric scanners using facial recognition on a factory floor. You've got GPS-enabled mobile apps for a sales team on the road. And you've got the geofencing we just talked about for those mobile workforces. It's really all about using the right tool for the job.
And the whole point of all this tech really is accountability. It's about stomping out problems like buddy punching, where one employee clocks in for their friend who's running late. That's a huge source of time theft. Biometrics, GPS, it's all designed to make sure the right person is in the right place at exactly the right time.
But just tracking who's working, that's only half the battle. The other, arguably harder half, is planning who should be working in the first place. And that brings us to the giant headache that is the scheduling puzzle.
And the priorities for that puzzle, they change dramatically depending on the industry. Take healthcare. The stakes are incredibly high. The number one goal is making sure every single shift is covered by someone with the correct, verified medical certifications and licenses. You can't just have anybody fill in, right? But then you look at retail, and the main priority is flexibility, juggling constantly changing schedules and tons of shift swaps to deal with unpredictable waves of customers.
So the modern fix for all this complexity is to actually empower the employees themselves. Instead of a manager burning hours on the phone trying to fill an open shift, employees' self-service portals let staff just pull out their phone, see their schedules, request time off, and even propose shift swaps with other qualified people. It's a huge win. It cuts down on the administrative nightmare for managers and gives people more control over their own lives.
Okay, so now we've got people clocked in and scheduled correctly. Awesome. But how does all of that connect to the bottom line? This is where we shift from just managing labor to managing the company's ledger.
In industries like manufacturing and construction, there's this really critical concept called job costing. See, it's not enough to know that an employee worked for 8 hours. You absolutely have to know what they were working on for those 8 hours. Job costing is what lets a business assign those labor costs to a specific project or task so they can get a true picture of whether it's actually profitable.
And the process itself is pretty straightforward. First, you track the hours against a specific job. Then, the system automatically allocates the labor costs in real time. That way, managers can see right away if a project is starting to go over budget. But the real magic, the real game changer, is that last step. All that historical data lets companies create way more accurate and competitive bids for future work. It's huge.
But even with the absolute best systems in place, businesses still face this pervasive and often kind of hidden cost that hits that ledger hard: time theft. And it's more than just buddy punching. We're talking about things like long breaks, starting late, finishing early. It all adds up fast. in the scale of this problem, it's just staggering. I mean, get this. According to the American Payroll Association, time theft can cost a business up to 4% of its gross payroll every single year. 4%. Now, that might not sound like a huge number, but for a medium-sized company, we're talking hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of dollars just gone, vanished into thin air.
So all of this brings us to the final piece of the puzzle, the payoff. I mean, why go through all this trouble? Well, because automating this whole process creates massive benefits that go way beyond just getting an accurate timesheet.
One of the biggest payoffs is that you're essentially creating a built-in compliance engine. Labor laws are, let's face it, a tangled mess. These systems automatically handle all those tricky overtime rules, they keep track of professional certifications to make sure your staff is qualified, and they can even manage specific union requirements. And, crucially, they create a detailed digital audit trail that you can't alter, which is rock-solid proof in case of a dispute.
So, when you zoom out and look at the whole picture, the benefits are crystal clear. You're reducing labor costs by getting rid of errors. You're increasing productivity because managers aren't buried in paperwork. You're ensuring compliance, which protects the business, and you're empowering your staff with more control. For that foreman, it means better bids. For that hospital administrator, it means every shift is safely covered. It's really a win all around.
And that really leaves us with one final thought. The goal of all this tech, it isn't just to track time more efficiently. It's to reclaim time. By automating all the tedious busy work, you're freeing up human potential. So the real question isn't about tracking hours, it's about what a business and its people could actually build with all that time they just got back.